Good evening. U.S. prosecutors are pushing for more prison time for President Donald Trump's former personal attorney, Michael Cohen. Even though he helped with the Russia collusion probe, prosecutors called him power-hungry liar who makes Trump look even worse.
Cohen had long portrayed himself as a man so loyal he'd take a bullet for President Trump. Ahead of his sentencing next week, he's throwing Trump under the bus. Prosecutors slammed Cohen as a greedy opportunist who rode Trump's coattails to wealth. The 52-year-old will be sentenced on 2 separate guilty pleas, one for campaign finance violations and financial crimes, and the other for lying to Congress in the Russia collusion probe. His financial crimes include tax evasion and coordinating hush money payments to women who claim to have had affairs with Trump. What doesn't bode well for Trump is the government implicated him in Cohen's campaign finance violations, saying the hush money was paid at the direction of Trump. Equally worrisome for Trump is that Cohen originally lied about his contacts with Russia. In a 7-page memo provided by special counsel Robert Mueller, it states Cohen did speak with a Russian who offered help from Moscow concerning the 2016 campaign. In September 2015, Trump allegedly approved Cohen's plans to reach out to the Russian government. 1 month later, Cohen admits he spoke with a Russian national who claimed to be a trusted person in the Russian Federation who could offer the campaign political synergy. Cohen says that contact repeatedly proposed a meeting between Trump and President Vladimir Putin, suggesting it would have a phenomenal effect on Trump's efforts to build a Trump Tower in Moscow. Cohen admits he didn't pursue that meeting because he was working with a different Russia-connected contact. Mueller's memo makes it clear Cohen was acting under the direction of Trump well into the presidential campaign. But both Trump and the Kremlin deny any collusion took place.
Now, the president has denied any kind of wrongdoing, and his attorneys have kind of downplayed this, saying that Cohen is a liar and making up stories to get a reduced sentence.
In France, more violence is erupting in the capital between so-called yellow vest protesters and police. Tear gas has been fired to disperse demonstrators. This marks the 4th consecutive weekend of mass protests in France against a highly unpopular government fuel tax and sky-high living costs. At least 89,000 police officers have been deployed across the country. Of those, 8,000 are in Paris to keep the peace. The goal is to avoid a repeat of last weekend's mayhem when the center of the French capital descended into chaos. Major sites in Paris are closed because of the protests.
Elsewhere in Europe, a concert in Italy turned deadly when a stampede killed 6 people and injured more than 50 others. The tragedy erupted at a nightclub in the coastal town of Corinaldo. That's where an Italian rapper was entertaining the crowds. People were dancing when suddenly someone doused the crowds with a substance similar to pepper spray. That triggered a stampede that sent panicked people running for the exits. 5 of the 6 people trampled to death were minors. The other victim was a 40-year-old woman who had escorted her daughter to the concert. Police are now searching for the culprit.
Here in Hong Kong, the deputy head of the Basic Law Committee, Maria Tam, says that in principle, lawmaker Eddie Chu can be stripped of his LegCo seat. This comes after Chu wasn't allowed to run in a rural election, given what some say is a questionable stance on independence. Christy Lung with that story.
A week after being disqualified from running in the village election, Pan Democrats Eddie Chu has yet to decide whether to file an election petition against the returning officer's decision. The returning officer claimed that Chu evaded questions and implicitly confirmed his support for independence as an option for self-determination. The decision was slammed for lacking legal basis, but pro-establishment's heavyweight Maria Tam disagreed. Speaking on the radio this morning, she cited a court judgment lately which dismissed an election petition filed by Chan Ho-tin, the Hong Kong National Party's convener. The independence advocate was banned from running in the 2016 Legislative Council election. Tam said the court's judgment states clearly that returning officers have the statutory powers to determine whether the nominees are genuine while making declarations on their intention to uphold basic law in the application forms. She added, in principle, Chu could even be stripped off his electoral seat, as long as there is sufficient evidence showing Chu violated his electoral oath, but added it is the legislature's call to make. Before the weekly Executive Council meeting this Tuesday, Chief Executive Carrie Lam said the government currently has no plan to challenge Andy Chu's electoral seat. In response to Tam's remarks this morning, Andy Chu said any pro-establishment heavyweight should make reference to the government's stance before making any comments. Christy Lung, TVB News.
Meanwhile, one lawmaker who's visiting Washington, D.C. said a U.S. State Department official expressed concern about Hong Kong's freedoms when the pair met yesterday.
The official from the Department of State indeed raised concern to me over the recent disqualification incidents and the banning of the Hong Kong National Party, and also the latest incident of Mr. Victor Ma. And I explained to him that it's all done in accordance with law and it's nothing to do with political censorship. What they said is they will continue to watch out the protection of human rights and freedom in Hong Kong.
Hong Kong's police chief is refusing to give up more details about the case of two Democratic Party lawmakers being charged over alleged co-protest. Caleb Leung reports.
The police will be fair and impartial when investigating a case, no matter the background of the people involved. That's the response of the Commissioner of Police Stephen Low when asked about the impending arrest of two lawmakers. The Democratic Party's Andrew Wen and Lam Cheuk-ting received a phone call from the police yesterday. They were ordered to report to Wan Chai Police Station on Monday, when they will be arrested for their protest in the Electoral Chamber on June 13th. Both will likely be charged with obstructing an officer of the council while in the execution of his duty. Wen may face an additional charge of common assault. Low said an investigation includes evidence gathering, such as taking witnesses' statements and watching security footage. The police will seek advice from the Department of Justice when their investigation concludes and decide on the next step. As for the details of the case of the two lawmakers, Low refused to provide any more information, saying the case has entered the judicial process. Still, Hong Kong's crime rate continued to improve. During today's Fight Crime conference, the chief executive said Hong Kong recorded around 46,000 crime cases during the first 10 months of the year. That's around 1,400 cases lower than last year's figure, which is a 3% year-on-year drop. But the police chief said there were 4 gun-related crimes in the first 10 months of this year. Generally, there were around 3 to 5 cases of gun crimes per year, while last year's figure was 0. Security Chief John Lee said more resources were allocated to the Customs and Excise Department to enhance technology on mail and package inspections. Caleb Leung, TVB News.
A man suspected of stalking a girl in the Western District has been arrested for loitering. The 21-year-old suspect, who claims to be a gas station worker, was taken to Western Police Station early this morning. On Wednesday, police received a report from a parent who claimed a man had followed his 8-year-old daughter on her way home. He had reportedly offered the child $200 to play with him. The child refused and informed her parents, who later filed a police report. The suspect was arrested in Chai Wan last night.
Hong Kong has become cooler under the influence of a strong northeast monsoon. A drop in mercury across the city has called for hats, scarves, and down jackets. The observatory says temperatures in urban areas will drop to 15 degrees Celsius tonight. A further 2 to 3 degree decrease is expected in the new territories. The weather will remain colder with a few showers over the next few days.
On Sunday, it will be rather cool with temperatures lingering around 70 degrees at first, dropping to a minimum of about 13 degrees later in the urban areas, and even a couple of degrees lower in the new territories. Extra precautions should be taken for the elderly and also those with chronic diseases.
Welcome back to TVB News. Huawei's chief financial officer remains in custody in Canada after a bail hearing in a Vancouver court was adjourned until Monday. The case is shaking up U.S.-China relations and worrying global financial markets. Alan Booknear reports.
Meng Wanzhou was detained at Vancouver Airport last Saturday at the request of the U.S. That was the same day Presidents Xi Jinping and Donald Trump agreed to a 90-day truce in their trade dispute. The U.S. alleges that Huawei used a Hong Kong shell company, Skycom, to sell equipment in Iran in violation of U.S. sanctions. It also says Meng and Huawei misled American banks into thinking Huawei and Skycom were separate when Skycom was Huawei. Meng's surprise arrest, denounced by Beijing, raises doubts about whether the trade truce will hold. But one analyst thinks the arrest will work in favor of the U.S.
This certainly gives the United States a bargaining chip in terms of the much larger U.S.-China trade issues. And so certainly this feeds right into the Trump initiative to have a 90-day negotiating period with the government of China.
The U.S. also alleges that Huawei inserts spyware into its products, such as smartphones.
We have the trade dispute. We also have the dispute over cybersecurity, and this also feeds into that because one of the concerns the United States has had for many years is that Huawei is using its technology to spy on customers.
The Canadian prosecutor at Meng's bail hearing said a warrant for Meng's arrest was issued August 22nd. He said she was aware of the U.S. investigation and had been avoiding the United States for months, even though her teenage son goes to school in Boston. He argued against granting bail.
One of the arguments is because she's wealthy and had access to money, she could flee. Like if they give her a bail, she's just going to leave, go to China, not come back. The defense was arguing just because you're wealthy doesn't mean you shouldn't not be allowed bail.
After 6 hours of arguments, there was still no decision by the judge, so Meng will spend the weekend in jail and the hearing will resume Monday. Alan Booknear, TVB News.
Germany's Christian Democrats have opted for Annegret Kramp-Karrenbauer to succeed Chancellor Angela Merkel as party leader. In doing so, they voted for a centrist politician who is long on party unity and short on major policy initiatives. Merkel's decision to stand down as leader of the CDU is part of her slow, stage-managed exit from German politics. In Kramp-Karrenbauer, the party has chosen a successor that opponents have dubbed Merkel 2.0.
Police in New Zealand say they are now treating the disappearance of a 22-year-old British tourist, Grace Millane, who was missing for 7 days, as a murder investigation.
Just after 3 p.m. this afternoon, a 26-year-old man was located at a central Auckland address by police. He was brought back here to the Auckland Central Police Station and is currently speaking to us in relation to the murder of Grace Millane. Sadly, the evidence we have gathered to this point of the inquiry has established that this is a homicide. We still do not know where Grace is. We are determined to find her and return her to her family.
Grace Millane was last seen last Saturday. She'd been staying at a backpacker hotel. Her birthday was Sunday, but she failed to contact her family. Police have not yet established a motive for the murder.
Back here at home, a fire services department mascot called anyone has been generating a lot of attention recently, not all of it good. As Kana Chu reports, the mascot's creator says the aim is to spread the message that anyone can help in an emergency situation.
Just like this, the Fire Services Department dresses the blue persona of anyone in different outfits to convey the message that anyone can lend a helping hand in emergency situations. Since its launch, there have been mixed reactions from members of the public. It was even rumored at one point that anyone might disappear due to criticisms the concept was in bad taste. Here's what its creator had to say.
We always want to listen to the public. How they think, how they feel about our corporate education. From the response, we can know what they know and what they don't know. Then we can fine-tune our program.
Chow had originally wanted to create one of those giant stuffed characters that are often seen handing out pamphlets on the streets. He changed his mind after realizing it wouldn't be able to perform CPR due to the lack of fingers. A team of some 10 officers backed these viral promotional videos featuring anyone. A CPR tutorial, The Eccentric Look of Anyone, has generated more than 215,000 views online. The Fire Services Department says the number of people applying to their life-saving courses has drastically increased ever since anyone was unveiled.
They have confidence to do the CPR and AED because they see anyone coming out to tell everybody that if you have brave, you can come out and just do it, you can help people.
The Fire Services Department said how anyone will evolve in the future will depend on the messages it wants to relay to the public in the coming days. Kana Chu, TVB News.
Support for children with special needs will be strengthened, says Hong Kong's health chief. Secretary for Food and Health, Sophia Chan, said the Department of Health is now working on an additional child assessment center that will offer multiple services. Now, to shorten the wait times, manpower has been increased at the temporary center in Nau Tau Kok. Meanwhile, the Hospital Authority, Education Bureau, and Social Welfare Department have jointly rolled out the Student Mental Health Support Scheme. The goal is to offer more support for students with mental health needs. A Hong Kong registered cargo vessel rescued a British sailor. This came after a violent storm ripped the mast off her yacht and flung the boat end over end. 29-year-old Susie Goodall was competing in a solo round-the-world race. She lost her mast 3,200 kilometers west of Cape Horn, near the southern tip of South America. The cargo vessel, the MV Tian Fu, was sailing from China to Argentina when it diverted to save her. The rescue proved difficult with sea swells of up to 4 meters high. Later, Goodall tweeted, "On the ship." A spokesman for the Golden Globe race said Goodall understood the challenges. Barry Pickthall said her yacht was one of the best prepared in the race. And from all of us, thanks for joining us.
Bye for now.